You know that feeling? That tightness in your chest, maybe? The racing thoughts that just won't quit?
Oh, yeah.
That absolute urge to just disappear or maybe lash out when something difficult happens? It's like being completely overwhelmed, just stuck.
Stuck in that swirl of emotion. Yeah.
You desperately want to push it away.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Just hide from it. I think we've all been there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's that moment where we just try to stuff our feelings down, pretend they're not there.
Hope they'll just vanish.
They rarely do they?
They tend to stick around. Sometimes they pop up later in ways you really don't expect.
And often cause more trouble than if we just, acknowledge them in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So the big question, the one we're diving into today is, how do we actually move through these feelings, these really powerful, often uncomfortable sensations, instead of getting stuck or constantly trying to shove them down?
That is absolutely the core challenge, isn't it? Learning how to navigate our inner world skillfully, especially when it feels, well, turbulent.
Yeah. And that's precisely what this deep dive is all about today. We've pulled together quite a stack of material for this one.
Oh, really? What kind of stuff?
We're drawing insights from deep dives into mindfulness practices, looking at proven therapeutic techniques like DBT, dialectical behavior therapy.
Okay, DBT, yeah.
And different perspectives on emotional expression, plus research into how we build psychological resilience. It's quite a mix.
So it's a really rich collection then, covering everything from the fundamental why of emotions to the nitty-gritty of what you can actually do in a tough moment.
Exactly.
Our mission with this deep dive is to try and extract the absolute most important nuggets of knowledge, right? The practical tools that sometimes hide in plain sight within these different approaches.
Mm-hmm.
To give you, the listener, a clearer, actionable path for understanding and working with your emotions effectively. And this isn't about getting rid of feelings.
No, definitely not. That's impossible. And like the sources point out, frankly, undesirable. Emotions have vital functions.
Right. So it's about learning how to relate to them, navigate them wisely.
Precisely. We're aiming for skillful processing and regulation, not eradication, and not uncontrolled expression either.
Okay, let's really unpack this then. Before we even get to the how, maybe we need to understand the why. Why is processing emotions sometimes such a problem? What are emotions actually doing for us? Because they must have a purpose, right? Why are they wired into us so deeply?
That's a fantastic starting point. And the sources lay this out very clearly. Emotions basically have a dual function, fundamental to human experience, and it's hardwired into our biology.
Dual function, okay.
First, they communicate to others. Think about facial expressions, anger, sadness, fear, joy, disgust, surprise. Those are often seen as the 6 basic or primary emotions.
Right, the ones that seem universal.
Exactly. Research suggests they are universally recognized across cultures, and they show up really early in life.
Like a baby's cry signals distress, or a smile signals contentment long before they have any words.
Precisely. They are incredibly fast, almost primal signals. Our body language, our tone of voice, these also transmit emotional information to people around us.
Unconsciously, a lot of the time.
Often unconsciously, yeah. Influencing their responses. A flash of fear on your face can instantly signal danger to someone else, even if they don't consciously know why. It's a critical survival mechanism, but it's also key for social connection.
Okay, so external communication to others. Makes sense. What's the second function?
The second function is that emotions communicate to ourselves. They act as internal signals, almost like alarms or intuitive prompts.
Like a gut feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Indicating that something significant is happening, either inside us or in our environment. They can provide really important information, like a knot in your stomach might signal anxiety about a situation, maybe prompting you to consider potential threats.
Or excitement might signal opportunity.
Right, guiding your attention. This inner communication can be incredibly helpful if, and this is a big if these signals prompt us to pause and actually check out the facts of the situation.
So they're giving us intel, basically. Both about the external world and our own internal state. They're like messengers.
Precisely. They are messengers. But here's where, as you kind of hinted at, it gets really interesting and potentially tricky.
Oh.
The sources consistently caution us about treating emotions as if they are absolute, unquestionable facts about the world or about ourselves. This is a really critical point.
Why is that so tricky? Don't they feel like facts sometimes?
They absolutely do. Our brains are wired to prioritize strong emotional signals. And the stronger the emotion feels, the more compelling it can be. The stronger our belief becomes that the emotion must be based on objective fact.
Right. Like if I feel terrified, there must be danger.
Exactly. If you feel an overwhelming sense of fear, Your sort of ancient brain circuitry might scream, danger,
Yeah.
even if the actual facts of the situation don't support a genuine threat to your life or health or well-being.
Okay.
Or, maybe less dramatically, if you feel intensely unsure about something, your internal dialogue might immediately leap to the conclusion, if I feel this unsure, I must be incompetent.
Ah, I see that jump.
Or, if I feel lonely when I'm left alone for just a few hours, it must mean I am fundamentally unlovable and I should never be left alone. That kind of catastrophic thinking can kick in.
Ah, okay, so the feeling becomes the proof of the fact, even when it's not objectively true, or maybe it's just one possible interpretation of the situation. The emotion sort of hijacks the rational assessment.
Exactly. And this is where the problems often begin. Because if we uncritically believe the emotion is an absolute fact about the world or ourselves, we're more likely to get stuck in it, letting it dictate our actions or interpretations.
Or try to get rid of it in unhelpful ways.
Right, like suppressing it. And stuffing or suppressing emotions, just pushing them down, ignoring them well, the sources show it has documented negative consequences.
Like what? Just feeling bad.
More than that, it's linked over time to increased physical health risks, things like heart disease, hypertension.
Wow, okay. So it's not just a mental inconvenience, it physically impacts us. That's a powerful nugget right there, the physical cost of emotional suppression.
Absolutely. The chronic stress of constantly suppressing emotional responses takes a significant physiological toll. And beyond that physical cost, people who regularly suppress their emotions tend to feel less socially connected.
Really? Why is that?
Well, they often report lower satisfaction with their relationships. Think about it. If you're constantly hiding or trying to control your authentic inner experience, it's incredibly difficult to forge deep, genuine connections with others.
That makes sense. It builds a wall.
It does. And it also increases the risk of developing mental health issues like anxiety and depression. The emotions don't just disappear, they fester.
Okay. So, stuffing them down, pretending they aren't there. Clearly not the long-term answer. It actually seems to make things worse.
Definitely.
But what about the other extreme? You know, the person who is constantly expressing intense emotion, maybe lashing out in anger all the time or getting stuck in endless worry cycles or wallowing in sadness very publicly.
That's a great question. The sources are equally clear that unbridled expression, doing it constantly or intensely without any regulation, can also be detrimental.
No, sir.
Well, for instance, some research cited suggests that chronic, intense anger expression can actually increase a person's risk of heart attack.
Whoa.
And studies involving families have shown that living in environments with high levels of constantly expressed intense emotion can make individuals with certain mental health conditions more vulnerable to relapse.
Okay, so it impacts others negatively too.
Yes. And internally, that constant churning or rumination, endlessly replaying a difficult situation in your mind, fueled by worry or anger or sadness, that also significantly increases the risk and severity of mental health issues. It's like getting stuck in an emotional feedback loop.
Okay, so the picture becomes clear. Stuffing is harmful, but constantly being overwhelmed by or outwardly expressing intense emotion without control isn't the answer either. Where is that healthy middle ground?
That middle ground, as these sources really emphasize, isn't about suppression or uncontrolled reaction. It's about skillful processing and regulation.
Skillful processing.
Yeah, it's learning to observe, understand, and navigate these powerful internal signals wisely, choosing our response rather than being automatically dictated by the emotion's initial urge.
All right, skillful processing and regulation. That sounds, well, it sounds achievable, but maybe also a little daunting. How do we even begin to do that? What's the starting point?
It starts with building a foundational capacity. And that foundation, according to these sources we looked at, drawing from therapeutic and mindfulness practices, is mindfulness and acceptance.
Mindfulness. Okay,
Yeah.
we hear that word everywhere now. What does it specifically mean in the context of navigating those big, messy emotions? How does it help us process?
That's a key question. In this context, mindfulness means bringing a particular kind of awareness to what's happening right now within your own experience, without getting caught up in judging it or trying to change it immediately. So when a strong emotion comes up, that tightness in the chest, the racing thoughts mindfulness is about intentionally being present with that thought, that feeling, that physical sensation, just as it is.
Without adding fuel to the fire.
Exactly. Without adding the fuel of judgment or resistance. Kimberly Brown, a meditation teacher cited in one source, explains this core principle really beautifully when talking about meditation. The goal isn't to clear the emotion, make it go away, or push it aside. Instead, she says, we don't try to get rid of anything. not pain or bad thoughts. We try to receive it, to allow it, to open to it, to bring kindness.
Receive it, allow it, open to it. That still feels incredibly counterintuitive when the feeling is something you desperately want to get rid of, like intense anxiety or grief. Why is receiving it helpful?
It's a great point because it does feel counterintuitive. But as many sources point out, our resistance to the uncomfortable feeling is often what creates the most suffering.
Ah, the resistance itself.
Yes, the feeling itself might be difficult, sure, but the fight against it, the wishing it wasn't here, the judging yourself for having it, the frantic attempts to distract or suppress, that's where we get truly stuck. Mindfulness helps us sort of drop the rope in that internal tug of war.
Drop the rope. I like that image.
Yeah. And one simple but really powerful technique drawn from these practices is naming or noting. Dr. Chris Willard, a psychologist, suggests that simply putting a label on the emotion you're experiencing silently or even out loud can make a significant difference.
Just naming it, like, this is anger.
Exactly. Saying to yourself, this is grief, or okay, loneliness is here, or this is confusion.
How does that help? It seems too simple.
Well, Dr. Willard explains that by naming our emotional experience, we begin to engage a different part of our brain. We shift activity slightly from the amygdala, our emotion center, which can feel overwhelming, towards the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in rational thought and regulation.
So it cools things down a bit.
It can. He notes, by naming our emotional experience, we've begun to regulate our response in the brain. It helps you step back from being completely lost in the emotion to having some awareness of the emotion. You create a little space.
Okay, that makes sense. Creating space.
And then you can ask yourself, as he suggests, is this anxious story I'm telling myself right now accurate and helpful, or just overwhelming? Once we name it, we can work with it.
That's fascinating. Just labeling it shifts brain activity and allows for a choice. Okay, so naming is one technique. What else helps build this mindful foundation?
Another key technique is focusing on the body sensations associated with the emotion. Emotions aren't just thoughts. They are very physical experiences.
Right, like that tightness in the chest I mentioned.
Exactly. Where do you feel this emotion show up physically? Is there tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach? Are your hands clenching, shoulders tensing up towards your ears, jaw tightening?
Yeah, all of those sometimes.
The practice is to explore where the emotion lives in your body, bringing a sense of gentle curiosity to it. Ask yourself, what is this feeling physically? What does it mean to feel mad? What does it actually feel like in my body right now?
So investigating the physical feeling.
My hands are clenched. My shoulders feel high and tight. There's heat in my face. My belly feels hard. Focusing on the physical feeling with curiosity can interrupt the cycle of getting lost solely in the overwhelming thoughts or the story you're telling yourself.
Curiosity about the physical sensation, not just getting swept up in the story the emotion is telling me.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It helps anchor you in the present moment and helps you see that the emotion isn't this solid, unchanging, monolithic thing. Dr. Richard Davidson, a neuroscientist who studies meditation's impact on the brain, notes something really interesting here.
What's that?
Through direct experience with mindfulness, we start to see that emotions, even difficult ones, are constantly changing. They're more porous, more fluid than we typically experience them when we're completely caught up in the intensity.
So they're not permanent states.
Not at all. And this awareness of their transient nature can start to loosen their grip on us. He also points out that consistent mindfulness practice literally strengthens the brain circuits involved in regulating disturbing emotions.
That's a powerful insight. The practice physically builds your capacity for regulation. It's like strengthening an emotional muscle, isn't it?
It truly is. It builds resilience at a neurological level. And another technique related to working with body sensations, this one offered by Dr. Kristen Neff, who's a leading researcher in self-compassion.
Oh, yeah, I know her work.
She offers a 3-step process she calls soften, soothe, allow.
Soften, soothe, allow. Okay.
First, you explore where you feel the emotion in your body, just like we discussed. Second, you consciously soften the body around that physical sensation. Imagine releasing tension in your shoulders, relaxing your belly, unclenching your jaw, just letting go of that physical bracing.
The physical holding pattern.
Exactly. The third step is to allow the emotion to be present, just as it is, without pushing it away. She explains that letting go of resistance in the body helps us feel safer internally.
Safer? How so?
Because the body isn't in that fight or flight, braced for impact state. And when we don't resist emotions, she says, they tend to be digested, processed, and then just fade. like waves naturally cresting and receding on a beach.
Digested, processed, and then just fade. That's such a beautiful and hopeful image. It suggests that by simply allowing them space, our system can naturally move through them.
Yes, rather than them getting stuck or even intensifying because we're fighting them so hard. Dr. Judson Brewer, who studies mindfulness and addiction, makes a similar point.
What does he say?
He argues that the emotion itself isn't always the root issue. It's how we relate to it, our reaction to the feeling that causes the real problems. Mindfulness helps change that relationship.
Okay, change the relationship.
He even suggests substituting curiosity for the negative emotion or the reaction, instead of getting angry about being angry or anxious about being anxious.
Which just layers more negativity on top.
Right. Instead, ask yourself, what does this anger actually feel like? Am I holding on to this? Am I resisting it? He points out that awareness of worry, for example, feels different and often much better than being completely lost in the worry itself. There's a bigger, better offer, as he puts it, in observing your experience rather than being totally consumed by it.
That's interesting. Observing feels less sticky. And this whole approach, this acceptance thing, it has research supporting it, right? I think I saw that mentioned.
Absolutely. There was a key study published back in 2018 in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. It provided significant support for this foundational approach.
What did it find?
It found that people who habitually accepted, rather than judged or suppressed, their negative emotional responses to daily stressors actually had better overall mental health 6 months later. They demonstrated greater resilience.
So acceptance isn't just being passive.
Not at all. Acceptance, this welcoming and allowing stance, isn't passive resignation. It's an active process of acknowledging reality. Okay, this feeling is here right now, which paradoxically seems to give emotions less power over time.
So the core idea of mindfulness and acceptance isn't about fixing the emotion or making it disappear immediately, but fundamentally changing your relationship with it, being with it differently.
Precisely. It's cultivating awareness, bringing curiosity to your internal experience, and crucially, bringing kindness towards yourself while you're feeling difficult things. Sharon Salzberg, another well-known meditation teacher, notes that effective meditation practice involves both deepening a sense of calm and increasing energy through interest and investigation.
Calm and energy. Interesting combination.
Yeah, finding that balance, being able to be with the pain, but also have the energy or capacity to investigate it with curiosity, that's key. She also makes a really important point.
What's that?
Sometimes, if you are truly exhausted, overwhelmed, or in acute distress, it's actually wise and skillful to temporarily turn away from the intensity. Move towards something easier or more grounding.
So it's not about forcing yourself to stare into the abyss if you're not ready.
Exactly. Allowing yourself a break from the intensity isn't failure. It's experimenting to find what allows for balance and resilience in that specific moment.
That makes perfect sense. You can't start practicing complex emotional surgery on yourself if you're already drowning, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you need to just get back to shore first.
Right, absolutely. And part of that foundational self-kindness in getting back to shore includes self-compassion, which is really tightly linked to mindfulness.
Self-compassion.
Self-compassion is essentially how you relate to yourself during difficult moments or when you notice your own flaws and failures. Dr. Kristen Neff, as we mentioned, defines it with 3 interconnected components.
Okay, what are the 3?
First, mindfulness, just being aware of your suffering, noticing the difficult feeling without getting lost in it or ignoring it. Second, common humanity.
Common humanity.
Yeah, recognizing that suffering, difficulty, and emotional pain are part of the shared human experience. You are not alone in this. Others have felt this way.
That feels important. It counters that feeling of, it's just me, I'm uniquely flawed.
Exactly. That sense of isolation often amplifies suffering tremendously. Reframing it as, hey, everyone feels fear sometimes, or sadness, or inadequacy, this is part of being human, can significantly reduce that burden.
Okay, mindfulness, common humanity. What's the third?
The third is self-kindness, actively treating yourself with warmth, support, and care rather than harsh self-criticism when you're suffering.
Treating yourself like you treat a friend.
Exactly. But Neff stresses you really need all 3 components working together: mindful awareness of the pain, connecting to shared humanity, and actively offering yourself kindness. If one piece is missing, it becomes much harder to truly practice self-compassion effectively.
How do you actively practice self-kindness in a moment of pain or self-criticism, though? It feels so much easier, sometimes almost automatic, to be hard on yourself.
It does for many people, absolutely. But an easy, practical prompt Dr. Neff suggests is to pause and ask yourself, what would I say or do for a good friend who was feeling exactly what I'm feeling right now, how would I treat them?
Hmm. Yeah, I probably wouldn't judge them harshly or tell them to get over it.
Probably not. You'd likely offer support, care, validation, understanding, maybe a hug, or just listen. Self-compassion is about deliberately choosing to be that good friend to yourself in those moments. It's an act of internal support.
Okay, so the foundation is mindfulness and acceptance, being present with emotions, maybe naming them, feeling them in the body, softening around the physical sensation, allowing them space, and bringing in self-compassion and kindness. That's a lot already.
It is. It's the groundwork.
So once we have that awareness, that ability to be with the emotion without instantly reacting or shutting down, what do we do, if anything? That's where the strategic responses come in, right?
Exactly. This is where we move from building awareness and acceptance to deciding how to respond skillfully based on the information the emotion is providing, combined with the actual facts of the situation.
Okay.
The sources, particularly drawing from DBT, introduce a crucial decision point here before you decide how to act when a strong emotion arises. It's called check the facts and wise mind.
Check the facts. Okay, so we're back to that idea of emotions feeling like facts, but potentially being misleading.
Precisely. Before you launch into an action based on a strong feeling, you need to pause and figure out two things. First, is your emotion actually justified by the objective facts of the situation? Is it a reasonable response?
Okay, justified by facts.
Second, even if it feels justified, would acting on the action urge of this emotion be effective in achieving your goals in this specific situation?
Effective. Okay, facts and effectiveness.
Right. The process involves several steps. First, you identify the emotion you're feeling. Let's say it's anger.
Okay, anger.
Then, you check the facts of the prompting event. This means describing what happened using only objective observations, like a video camera would record it. No interpretations yet.
Just what happened.
Exactly. You actively challenge judgments, absolutes like always, never, and black and white descriptions. You also assess your interpretations and assumptions about the event. Are there other possible ways to see this situation? Are your assumptions necessarily true?
Okay, let's try that out. If I feel furious because someone didn't reply to my text message for like several hours,
Yeah.
I identify the emotion. Fury. Check the facts. They sent a text message at 9 a.m. It's now 2 p.m. and I haven't received a reply. That's the objective fact.
Right.
My interpretation might be they're deliberately ignoring me because they don't respect me and they probably hate me. But checking the facts challenges that interpretation. The fact is just the lack of reply over several hours. There could be tons of other reasons.
Perfect example. Exactly. And then, after checking the facts and questioning your interpretations, you ask your wise mind.
Wise mind. What's that?
Wise mind is a concept in DBT that represents the integration of your rational, logical thinking mind and your emotional, intuitive thinking mind. It's that inner wisdom that balances head and heart.
Okay, the balance point.
You ask wise mind, given the facts and given your goals, like maintaining the relationship, would acting on the action urge of this emotion, in your example, the urge of fury, which might be to send an angry message or confront them, actually be effective in this situation?
Probably not effective. No, it would likely escalate things or damage the relationship, which definitely isn't my goal.
Likely not effective at all. And this check, this assessment, using wise mind, leads you directly to the first major strategic response when dealing with intense emotions. Opposite action.
Opposite action.
You use opposite action specifically when your emotion does not fit the facts of the situation, like your text example.
Yeah.
Or when acting on your emotion would not be effective, even if the emotion itself feels justified in the moment.
Okay, so if my emotion isn't really based on reality or acting on it won't get me anywhere useful, I do the opposite of what I feel like doing. That sounds weird. How does that even work?
Exactly. It sounds weird, but it's a powerful technique because every emotion has an inherent action urge, what that emotion biologically or psychologically makes you want to do.
Right, like fight or flight.
Yeah. Fear's urge is typically to run away or avoid. Anger's urge is to attack, destroy, or criticize. Sadness's urge is to withdraw, isolate, or do nothing. Shame's urge is to hide, avoid others, disappear.
Okay.
Opposite action means deliberately choosing to act in a way that is the opposite of that natural action urge, with the goal of actually changing the emotion itself. The underlying principle is that action and emotion are interconnected. Changing the action can influence the feeling.
So you change the feeling by changing the behavior. That seems radical.
It can feel that way, but it's rooted in behavioral principles. The steps outlined in the sources are pretty clear. First, identify the emotion you want to change.
Got it.
Second, check the facts. Does the emotion, its intensity, or its duration truly fit the objective facts.
Okay.
Third, identify your action urges. What does this specific emotion make you want to do right now?
Nail down the urge.
Fourth, ask wise mind. Would acting on this urge be effective in achieving your goals?
Check effectiveness.
Fifth, if the emotion doesn't fit the facts or acting on it isn't effective, then identify the actions that are the complete opposite of your urges.
The opposite.
Now, this is key ACT opposite, all the way to those urges.
Yeah.
And importantly, you repeat acting opposite until the emotion actually starts to change.
Fact opposite all the way. What does all the way mean? It sounds like you really have to commit, like fully.
You absolutely do. It means fully immersing yourself in the opposite behavior, not just doing it half-heartedly while still mentally clinging to the original urge or resentment.
Ah, okay. No half measures.
Right. The sources give very specific examples for common emotions, detailing the action urges and their corresponding opposite actions. Let's take anger, for instance, like in your example.
Okay. Anger urges.
The action urges of anger are things like attacking verbally or physically, destroying things, criticizing others, maybe making threats, or tightening your body, clenching fists, glaring.
Okay, so if I'm furious because my friend didn't text back and checking the facts says my interpretation, they hate me, isn't justified, and wise mind says sending an angry message isn't effective, the opposite actions are.
The opposite actions for anger in that situation are to gently avoid the person you're angry at for a bit, rather than attacking or confronting immediately. Take time out from the situation, maybe using paced breathing to regulate your nervous system, and actively be kind, rather than mean, insulting, or critical.
Be kind when you feel furious.
Well, yeah. And acting opposite all the way for anger involves not just the outward action, but also your internal state and body. It includes mentally practicing imagining, understanding, and empathy for the other person.
Empathy for the person you're mad at.
Deliberately trying to step into their shoes, see their point of view, actively imagining good or at least neutral reasons for their behavior, like your examples, maybe they're busy, phone died, etc. It also involves deliberately changing your body posture and physical state. Consciously unclench your hands, relax your muscles, soften your facial expression, maybe even try a slight half smile, which can trick your brain a bit.
A body posture thing again.
Yes, and changing your body chemistry through calming techniques like paced, slow breathing, or maybe engaging in energetic, nonviolent exercise, like going for a run to discharge the physical energy of anger safely.
So if I'm feeling that surge of fury about the text, instead of firing off an angry reply or just stewing and replaying it, I might deliberately put my phone down, walk away, take some slow breaths, maybe consciously think, okay, maybe they're just in a long meeting, or maybe their kid is sick, and physically relax my jaw and shoulders. That sounds incredibly difficult to do in the moment.
It is difficult at first, absolutely, because you're acting directly against a very powerful biological and psychological urge. It takes real effort and consistent practice. But by deliberately interrupting that automatic connection between the emotion and its typical action, you start to rewire your response patterns over time.
Okay, rewiring. Let's look at sadness then. The action urges of sadness, usually to withdraw, right? Isolate yourself, become inactive, stay in bed maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the classic urges.
So the opposite would be to get active and engage, even if you feel like lead?
Precisely. The opposite actions for sadness are to actively get active, to approach rather than withdraw from people and situations, to avoiding activities that might actually help, to build mastery.
Build mastery, what's it?
Doing things, even small things, that make you feel competent and self-confident, accomplishing tasks.
Okay.
And also to deliberately increase pleasant events in your life.
Increase pleasant events, like deliberately schedule things just to feel a little bit good, even if you don't feel like it.
Exactly. The sources really emphasize this. It's not about forcing yourself to suddenly be happy, but about actively scheduling and engaging in activities that research shows can improve mood and counter the inertia, the stuckness of sadness.
What kind of activities?
The sources even include lists. Things like listening to music you enjoy, reading a good book, going for a walk in nature, spending time with friends or pets if that feels good, gardening, cooking a nice meal, taking a relaxing bath. Even simple daily tasks performed mindfully can count as pleasant events if you approach them that way.
Well, that boosts.
Little boost. And acting opposite all the way for sadness involves paying attention to the present moment while doing these activities to truly experience them, not just go through the motions while ruminating.
Be present with the good stuff.
Yeah. It also includes deliberately changing your posture to be more bright or engaged, head up, eyes open, shoulders back, maybe speaking in a slightly more upbeat tone of voice than you feel. And similar to anger, changing your body chemistry through physical movement, like going for a brisk walk or jog, which can significantly impact mood.
Okay. So you feel that heavy cloud of sadness descending, that urge to just curl up on the couch and avoid everyone.
Hmm.
Instead, you might deliberately get dressed, maybe put on some upbeat music, force yourself to go for a walk outside, deliberately stand up straight, make eye contact with people, if that feels okay, and try to notice the sights and sounds around you, even if you really don't feel like it initially.
That is exactly the practice. It feels artificial at first, maybe, but you are deliberately acting against the urge to stagnate and withdraw. You're injecting energy and engagement into your system, which can gradually, sometimes surprisingly quickly, shift the emotional state.
Okay. What about fear? Fear's primary urge is usually to run away, right? Escape. Avoid the perceived threat.
Yes, avoidance is key with fear.
So if your fear doesn't fit the facts, meaning there's no actual objective threat to your life, health, or well-being right now, like maybe fear of public speaking or certain social situations for many people,
Right, where the perceived threat outweighs the actual danger.
then the opposite action is to approach, to deliberately not avoid the situation you fear.
Exactly. Face the fear, essentially.
That sounds like exposure therapy.
It's very related, but it's done strategically. Not recklessly jumping into the deep end, perhaps, but gradually approaching the feared situation, maybe starting with small, manageable steps, while using other coping skills like paced breathing or self-talk.
Okay, gradual approach. And what about shame? That incredibly painful feeling that just makes you want to disappear or hide yourself from the world? That feels like a tough one.
It is a very tough one. Shame's action urges are typically to hide, avoid others, withdraw physically or verbally, look down, make yourself small.
Yeah, disappear.
If the shame you're feeling is not justified by the facts, meaning if you weren't doing something objectively wrong according to your own values, or people who genuinely care about you wouldn't actually reject you if they knew about a particular characteristic or behavior you feel ashamed of,
Okay, so unjustified shame.
then the opposite actions are pretty bold. Deliberately make public that characteristic or behavior, but specifically with people who are known to be accepting and non-judgmental.
Whoa. Reveal the thing you're ashamed of.
With safe people, yes. And maybe even repeat the behavior you feel shame about if it's not harmful without hiding it from those accepting people. Acting opposite all the way for shame includes no apologizing if it's solely shame and not justified guilt. It involves consciously taking in all information from others, not just filtering for judgment, and deliberately changing your body posture to appear innocent and proud, head up, maybe chest puffed slightly, making eye contact, speaking in a steady voice.
That sounds incredibly vulnerable, choosing to reveal something you feel deep shame about to others, even safe ones.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
It's a courageous act. It's about testing that core belief that I am fundamentally unacceptable and actively seeking and finding evidence of acceptance instead. But here, it's really important to highlight the key distinction the sources make between shame and guilt, because they require very different responses.
Okay, shame versus guilt. How are they different in terms of action?
Guilt feels different internally, usually less about your core self being flawed and more about a specific action. Its urges are typically to repair harm you've caused, apologize, maybe confess, perhaps bow your head in remorse. Guilt fits the facts when your behavior actually violates your own values or moral code and you've genuinely harmed someone or yourself.
Right, you did something wrong.
Exactly. If you feel justified guilt, the effective actions are different from opposite action for shame. You should seek forgiveness if appropriate, work to repair the harm you caused, accept consequences gracefully, and commit to avoiding the problematic behavior in the future. It's about taking responsibility.
Okay, so guilt is about owning up to something you actually did wrong and trying to make it right. Shame is more that pervasive feeling of being fundamentally bad or unacceptable as a person, maybe even for things you didn't do or can't control.
Exactly. Guilt is often about a behavior. Shame is often about a perceived flaw in your sense of self. And the sources even address situations where both shame and guilt might be present. And the strategy becomes a bit more complex, a blend.
How would that work?
Well, say your shame is unjustified. People you care about wouldn't actually reject you. But your guilt is justified. You genuinely did something wrong according to your values.
Oh.
Then you'd maybe make the behavior public with accepting people, opposite action for shame, and apologize and work to repair the harm, effective action for guilt.
Okay, a combined approach.
But what if your shame is justified? You will be rejected or punished by a particular group for a behavior. But your guilt is not justified. The behavior didn't violate your core values, but it violates the group's values.
Oh, interesting conflict.
In that case, acting opposite for guilt might mean not apologizing to that group because you don't believe you did wrong by your own standards. Perhaps using interpersonal skills to navigate the situation, maybe even working to change the group's values if that's possible, or ultimately finding a new group that aligns better with your values.
Wow. So opposite action isn't just a simplistic, just do the opposite rule. It's a really nuanced strategy that depends entirely on checking the facts carefully, using wise mind to assess effectiveness, and understanding the specific emotion and its typical urge, plus the difference between shame and guilt.
Precisely. It requires quite a bit of awareness and a willingness to experiment with your behavior to influence your emotions. And as we've touched on a few times, the physical component is really critical. Consciously changing your posture, engaging in paced breathing, or doing specific types of exercise directly impacts the physical experience of the emotion, which powerfully supports the emotional shift you're trying to make through opposite action.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That's opposite action, for when the emotion doesn't fit the facts or acting on it isn't effective. What's the second major strategic response you mentioned?
The second strategy is problem solving.
Problem solving.
Okay, you use problem solving when your emotion does fit the objective facts of the situation. And acting on that emotion, when channeled effectively, is the most effective way to resolve the situation or achieve your goals.
Okay, give me an example of that.
Let's say you feel angry because someone at work deliberately and unfairly took credit for a project you did most of the work on.
Okay, yeah, that would make me angry.
Your anger is likely justified by the facts.
Right.
And asserting yourself, or maybe talking to your boss, channeling the action urge of anger effectively into assertion, not aggression, would likely be the most effective way to solve the problem and address the injustice.
Right. In that case, just using opposite action and being kind wouldn't solve the actual problem.
Exactly. In that scenario, the emotion has given you valid information about a real external problem. And the appropriate action urge, when expressed skillfully, perhaps assertively rather than aggressively, can lead to resolving that external issue. Problem solving provides a structured way to tackle that external situation.
Okay, so what are the steps for problem solving?
It's a pretty logical sequence.
Yep.
First, you figure out and describe the problem situation clearly and objectively.
Define the problem.
Second, you check the facts again, just to be sure you've accurately and objectively identified the real problem, not just your emotional interpretation of it.
Double check the fact.
Third, identify your realistic short-term goal. What specific change needs to happen in the situation for you to feel okay, or for the problem to be resolved effectively? What outcome are you aiming for?
Define the goal.
Fourth, brainstorm lots of possible solutions, generate as many ideas as you can without judging them at this stage. Just get them all out there.
Brainstorm options.
Fifth, evaluate those solutions. Now you weigh the pros and cons of each potential option. What are the likely consequences?
Evaluate options.
Sixth, choose the best solution or combination of solutions based on your evaluation.
Choose the path.
Seventh, plan exactly how you're going to implement the chosen solution. What are the specific steps you'll take? When? How?
Make a plan.
Eighth, put your plan into action. Take the steps.
Action.
And finally, ninth, evaluate the outcome. Did it work? Did it solve the problem effectively? Did it achieve your goal? If not, you might need to go back and choose a different solution.
Review the results. Okay, that's a very structured approach. It's applying a rational process to deal with an external issue that's causing a justified emotional reaction. So it's about changing the environment or the interaction rather than just changing your internal reaction like with opposite action.
Yes, that's the key distinction. With problem solving, you're engaging with the external world to change the problematic situation itself, because your emotion is signaling a real issue that needs addressing. One source offers a slightly simpler version for everyday use too. Assess the situation, list your options, and think about the consequences of each option before choosing.
Assess, list, think consequences. That's more digestible, maybe.
Yeah, a quicker version for less complex problems.
Okay, so let me try to recap the flow here. You start with building that foundation of awareness and acceptance through mindfulness and self-compassion.
Right, the groundwork.
When a strong emotion hits, you pause. You check the facts with wise mind to see if the emotion is justified and if acting on its urge would be effective.
The assessment step.
Based on that assessment, You either use opposite action to change your internal state when the emotion doesn't fit the facts, or acting on it isn't effective. Or R. You use problem solving to change the external situation when the emotion does fit the facts, and acting on it skillfully is effective.
That's the core dynamic described in these sources: awareness, assessment, and then strategic skillful action, or sometimes strategic non-action, like gently avoiding an opposite action for anger.
Right. It's not always about doing something dramatic. Okay. Beyond these core strategies, you mentioned the sources offer other important tools for building overall emotional resilience and capacity, things we can do proactively.
Yes, absolutely. These are things you could practice regularly to strengthen your emotional foundation.
What are some of those crucial resilience-building tools?
Well, one incredibly powerful tool that came up is emotional journaling or expressive writing.
Journaling, I've heard that helps, but how specifically for emotions?
Putting your feelings into words on paper can be profoundly helpful, especially for identifying and releasing complex emotions that are hard to untangle just in your head.
Yeah, emotions can be so messy sometimes, right? Like a mix of different feelings all swirling together. It's hard to even know what you're feeling.
Absolutely. And one source notes that the very complexity of our emotional experience can make it incredibly difficult to decipher and label accurately in the moment. Journaling helps with this process of externalizing it, getting it out, and clarifying it.
So it brings clarity.
It does. It encourages self-reflection, helping you notice patterns in your emotional responses or triggers over time. It can also be a direct way to manage stress and anxiety just by getting the thoughts and feelings out of your head and onto the page. And it boosts self-awareness, which can then help you challenge negative thought patterns when you see them written down objectively.
What kind of journaling is most effective? Should you just write whatever comes to mind, like a diary dump, or is there a more structured way?
Both approaches seem to have value, according to the sources. One technique mentioned is stream of consciousness. Just commit to writing continuously for a set period, maybe 10 or 20 minutes. Don't worry about grammar or making sense. Just keep the pen moving. Even if you start with, I don't know what to write, I feel restless, your mind will likely find its way to whatever is stirring beneath the surface.
Just let it flow.
Exactly. Another approach is more reflective journaling. Here, you might track specific details alongside your feelings. Things like the weather, what you ate, how much sleep you got, any conflicts you experienced that day, the dominant thoughts you noticed, physical sensations in your body, and then the emotional reactions that arose.
Like being a detective about your own experience.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Gathering data. The key across different techniques seems to be writing without judgment. Try to observe your thoughts and feelings, almost like an outside reporter simply documenting the facts of your internal experience. Today, this happened, and these thoughts came up, and this feeling arose in my chest.
Writing like an objective observer of your own mind and body. That's a fascinating way to think about it. So it's not just venting, although maybe that's part of it. It's also a process of gathering data and creating a bit of distance from the intensity.
Exactly. It externalizes the internal chaos, making it potentially more manageable to look at and understand. Another crucial tool, which we touched on earlier as part of the foundation, is actively practicing self-compassion, especially after difficult emotional experiences or setbacks.
Coming back to self-compassion.
Yes. Actively practicing those three components: mindfulness of the suffering, connecting to common humanity, I'm not alone in feeling this, and offering yourself genuine self-kindness and consistently asking yourself that question, what would I say to a good friend feeling this, can dramatically reduce feelings of isolation and shame and help you recover more quickly from difficult emotional moments. It builds resilience over time.
Okay. What else helps build that overall capacity for emotional resilience? It can't just be about managing the hard stuff. It must also be about cultivating the positive, right? Building up reserves.
Absolutely. That's a critical point. The sources emphasize two key practices for building resilience that focus specifically on the positive side: accumulating positive emotions and building mastery. It's not just damage control. It's actively building strength and well-being.
Accumulating positive emotions, how do you do that intentionally? Can you just, decide to feel happy? That seems unlikely.
No, not exactly deciding to feel happy on command. It's more subtle. It's about deliberately increasing your exposure to and your mindful engagement with pleasant experiences throughout your day, every day.
Increasing exposure.
The sources suggest actively scheduling and doing at least one or two activities from a list of pleasant events daily. And crucially, being fully mindful and present while doing them so you can truly experience and savor the positive emotion they generate, however small.
So you have to notice it and let it land.
Exactly. These activities don't need to be huge, elaborate, or expensive things either. They can be as simple as really savoring a cup of tea or coffee without distraction, listening attentively to a favorite song, spending 10 minutes fully focused on petting your dog or cat, noticing the beauty of a sunset or a flower, taking a warm shower and feeling the water, reading a few pages of a fun book, or having a brief, positive chat with a friend.
Small things add up?
They really do. The goal is to intentionally inject moments of pleasure, contentment, calm, or interest into your routine and actually notice them when they happen. Pay attention to the good stuff.
So it's about actively cultivating positive moments and making sure you're actually present enough to receive their benefit, building a reservoir, like you said.
Precisely. Building a reservoir of positive experience. The other crucial piece mentioned is building mastery.
Building mastery, what does that involve?
This involves planning and engaging in activities that make you feel competent and self-confident, things you're good at, or learning new skills. The sources suggest starting with tasks that are difficult enough to be a challenge, but still possible to achieve with some effort. You plan for success, and then you gradually increase the difficulty over time as you get better. Actively looking for manageable challenges and tackling them builds a sense of self-efficacy and competence.
Difficult but possible. Challenging yourself in a way that stretches you, but ultimately leads to a feeling of accomplishment. That makes sense. Successfully navigating challenges builds confidence in your ability to handle things, which has got to be key for resilience when tougher emotions hit.
Exactly. It reinforces your belief in your capacity to cope. It builds confidence. The sources also mention a related technique called cope ahead.
Cope ahead. Sounds proactive.
It is. It's a proactive strategy for handling potentially difficult or triggering situations before they actually occur.
How does it work?
You vividly imagine the scenario that you anticipate being challenging. Maybe a difficult conversation you need to have, a stressful meeting, an event that usually triggers anxiety. Then you decide very specifically which coping skills, like paced breathing, checking the facts, using opposite action if needed, maybe specific phrases to use, you will use in that moment.
Okay, plan the skills.
Then you vividly rehearse in your mind actually using those effective coping skills and imagine yourself successfully navigating the situation. You really visualize it going well because you used your skills. Finally, you practice relaxation afterward to reinforce a sense of calm mastery associated with that scenario.
So it's like mental preparation and rehearsal, almost like an athlete visualizing their performance before a game. You're programming your brain for a more effective response.
That's a great analogy. You're priming your system to access skillful responses when the actual stressful event happens, rather than being caught off guard and defaulting to old, unhelpful patterns.
Okay, cope ahead. That sounds useful. What else?
Finally, and perhaps most fundamentally, the sources consistently highlight the critical importance of taking care of your physical body. There's a huge link between physical health and emotional well-being.
The mind-body connection.
Absolutely. They use the acronym PLEASE skills to emphasize this connection, P-L-E-A-S-E.
Okay, what does PLEASE stand for?
P-L is for treat physical illness. So seek medical care when you need it. Don't ignore physical problems. E is for balance. Eat regularly, mindfully. Avoid getting too hungry or overly full, which can affect mood. A is for avoid mood-altering substances, limit or avoid non-prescribed drugs and alcohol that can disrupt emotional regulation. S is for balance.
Sleep.
Sleep. Yes, that's huge for emotional regulation, isn't it?
Yeah.
When I'm tired, everything feels harder emotionally. My fuse is shorter. It is absolutely critical. Lack of sleep, or poor quality sleep, can severely impair your ability to regulate emotions. It increases irritability, makes you more vulnerable to anxiety and depression. The sources offer standard sleep hygiene tips. Of course, avoiding caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, heavy meals, vigorous exercise close to bedtime. Keeping your bedroom cool, dark, quiet.
The usual suspects.
Right. But they also offer tips for what to do if you wake up in the middle of the night with anxiety or rumination, which is common.
Oh, what do they suggest for that?
Techniques like paced breathing again, or maybe a simple 9 to 0 counting meditation if your mind is just racing. And they include that really insightful nugget about reminding yourself if you wake up worrying that these anxious thoughts are often just middle of the night thinking.
Middle of the night thinking. I like that phrase.
Yeah, the idea is that these thoughts feel much more significant, urgent, and unsolvable at 3 a.m. than they typically do in the light of day. Just naming it as middle of the night thinking can sometimes reduce their power and help you disconnect from their urgency.
That's helpful. Reminding yourself that it's just the time of night might actually help detach a bit. Okay, so that was PLEAS. What's the last E?
The last E is for exercise. Get regular physical activity, which is well known to boost mood and reduce stress.
Okay, please skills. Treat physical illness, balance eating, avoid mood-altering substances, balance sleep, and exercise. That's a very practical acronym to remember. Taking care of the body supports the mind.
Exactly. Consistently caring for your physical body provides the essential biological foundation that supports your mind's ability to regulate emotions effectively. It makes everything else easier.
And these are all skills and practices. Mindfulness, opposite action, problem solving, self-compassion, please skills that people often learn and develop within therapeutic contexts, right? It links back to that idea of developing emotional intelligence.
Exactly. Many different therapeutic approaches utilize these principles as core components of healing and growth. DBT, which we've drawn heavily from for the strategic actions like opposite action and problem solving, is explicitly a skills-based therapy designed to help people manage intense emotions, improve relationships, and develop distress tolerance.
Right.
Emotion-focused therapy, EFT, helps individuals learn to identify, experience, understand, and work through core emotions, seeing emotions not as problems to be suppressed, but as valid signals containing important information about needs and the environment.
So facing feelings directly.
Yes. Acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, emphasizes accepting difficult emotions as a natural part of life while clarifying your personal values and committing to action guided by those values, even when discomfort is present.
Living by values despite feelings.
And expressive therapies like art therapy or music therapy offer powerful nonverbal pathways to explore and process emotions, which can be incredibly helpful when words are difficult or just feel insufficient.
So these aren't just abstract concepts floating around. There are concrete tools that therapists use every day to help people build what we often call emotional intelligence, that capacity to recognize, understand, manage, and effectively work with our own emotions, and eventually understand and navigate the emotions of others too.
That's right. Therapy provides structured guidance, support, and dedicated practice in developing these skills. It ultimately enhances self-awareness, builds resilience, and improves our ability to navigate the inevitable complexities of life and relationships. It's all part of learning to become a more skilled navigator of your own inner emotional landscape.
So we began this deep dive with that really relatable feeling of being overwhelmed by emotions, that strong urge to just stuff them down.
The feeling of being stuck.
We dove into understanding why emotions are essential messengers, but also why they aren't always reliable facts about the world or ourselves. We have to check them.
Right. Check the facts.
We saw that suppressing emotions has real costs, physical and mental, but also that uncontrolled expression or getting stuck in rumination isn't the answer either.
Finding that middle path.
Yeah. The healthy path forward seems to involve building a solid foundation of mindfulness and acceptance. Learning to be present with emotions without judgment, maybe naming them, feeling them in the body, allowing them space, and bringing self-compassion to the whole experience.
That crucial foundation of awareness and kindness.
And then from that foundation, we learned about using strategic responses based on checking the facts with wise mind. Implementing opposite action when the emotion doesn't fit the facts or acting on it isn't effective.
Acting against the unhelpful urge.
And using problem solving when the emotion is justified and action is needed to change the external situation.
Addressing the root cause when it's external.
Plus, we equipped ourselves with a whole toolkit of resilience building practices. Using journaling to understand our inner world better.
Getting it out on paper.
Intentionally accumulating positive experiences and building mastery through achievable challenges.
Living up the good stuff and competence.
Preparing for difficult situations with cope ahead.
My mental rehearsal.
And taking that fundamental care of our physical selves through the please skills.
Looking after the body as the base.
It's absolutely clear from this deep dive into the sources that processing and regulating emotions isn't something that just passively happens to us. It's really an active, learnable skill set.
It really is like learning any skill.
It requires awareness, yes, but also courage. The courage to actually feel what's uncomfortable sometimes, and curiosity, kindness towards yourself, and maybe most importantly, consistent practice. It's not a one-and-done thing.
Definitely requires practice.
But developing these skills empowers you, doesn't it? To navigate life's inevitable challenges and difficult moments with greater resilience, maybe less suffering from all that resistance. And it seems like it fosters a deeper, more authentic connection, both with yourself and with the people in your life.
Absolutely. That connection piece is huge.
And if we circle back to that initial urge we talked about, the urge to stuff feelings down, the really profound insight from these sources offers such a powerful alternative. It's that idea you mentioned earlier that when difficult emotions are met with acceptance, when they are not resisted or fought against, they tend to be naturally digested, processed, and then just fade.
They run their course.
They seem to lose their power to overwhelm when you're simply willing to experience them, to let them be there for a bit.
And what really stands out for me here is the immense power that seems to be unlocked by that simple willingness. It's not even about liking it, just being willing to experience what is uncomfortable.
Just willing to let it be there.
Finding the capacity and the courage to just be willing to have the feeling for a while without immediately needing to fix it or flee from it.
So here is a thought for you, the listener, to maybe ponder on, something to take away from this deep dive today. What if you chose just one difficult emotion that shows up for you this week? Maybe it's a persistent worry about something relatively small or a moment of frustration that tends to linger.
Just pick one.
Yeah. And instead of trying to push it away instantly or getting lost in the story it tells you, what if you simply observed it with curiosity? Just for a few moments, not trying to change it, not judging yourself for having it, just noticing where you feel it in your body and observing what happens when you allow it just a little space to just be present.
What might unfold if you just allowed that emotion to be present just for a little while without all the usual resistance? What might you learn?
That's the deep dive for today. Thank you for joining us.